Hello and welcome to another episode of the Tejano Traveler. Today we are doing some history videos and we are on El Camino Real de los Tejas. Now I have this series of videos that go into depth with this, but I've decided to combine them all into one short video, that way you all can look. And it all starts at the Rio Grande, trying to find out where the best place for crossing was. As you can see, people would look for rocks and flat places. Then once you're in Texas, you go to Los Corralitos or to the Uribe Trevino Ranch, which was a stronghold and a ranch. Now there's some sites that you can see along the Camino. You can usually start in the South Texas region. One good place to start is Laredo. The road would pass through there. You would have to pass by San Agustin Cathedral and make your way to San Antonio. That's where all the roads would go to. And we have several museums that showcase that history if you're ever in Laredo. Now, one of the most interesting things is seeing all the markers along the road. This is one of the first ones I saw, which got me thinking, like, what is this place? And as they would travel, they would stop at different places, waiting for the water levels to come down, and that's what Laguna Espantosa does. You could also be coming from California, and one of the places you would stop at before you reach San Antonio was the Landmark Inn in Castroville. There's a lot of sites connected to El Camino Real. People would travel this road from Mexico City all the way to Natchitoches in Louisiana. And one of the missions that kept moving was the Mission Espiritu Santo. So there's like at least 4 different sites that you are able to go to, and its final location is in Goliad, at Goliad State Park. This is one of my favorite missions. It's one of my favorite places to go and visit. Goliad is an amazing area for Camino Real de los Tejas history. There's history everywhere once you get there. They got the mission, they got the Presidio La Valla, which is important to Texas revolutionary history as well. So you can come here, get to learn a lot. And like I said, there's markers everywhere. They also have the El Camino Visitor Center where you can learn a little bit more, get to know what the route was like, what life was like, and get to know some history. So I'm glad that they have opened it. Just outside of Goliad, we have Mission Rosario State Historic Site. Now, it's not open for the people, but you do kind of get to go there and get an idea of what the place looked like with this little cool rendering that they have there. And along the road, you would have to just cross a lot of creeks, and this was one of them as you're trying to get to San Antonio. Floresville also has its little El Camino sites, and then once you are approaching San Antonio, there's several passes that you have to take. Some of them were a lot better than others. Some of them you had to wait for the water level to go down. This one here, it's I know it as Donkey Lady Bridge, but it's called something else for El Camino purposes. I think Applewhite Crossing. And then once you get into San Antonio, you start seeing things that are going to be important infrastructure that is part of the whole mission system that they had there in San Antonio, such as the dams, the aqueducts, and all these different river access points and river crossing points. You had to be on wagons and horses, so you had to look for low water crossings. Sometimes you'd have to stand over a bluff and look around and realize, you know what, we're stuck. And then suddenly you'd see a spot where you can cross, just like this one. And houses were important back then. Big houses. Important people had houses, and people would stop there and ask for a room, such as at the Jose Antonio Navarro State Historic Site. He was very important to Texas history, so definitely get to know a bit more about him. And then as you're entering San Antonio, you would stop by La Villita and then see the San Fernando Cathedral, which was the focal point there. And then you'd head over to the Spanish Governor's Palace on Military Plaza and get your paper signed and stuff stamped and give them permission to continue traveling the road. And of course, you'd get to enjoy all the missions that were there, such as the Alamo, Mission Concepcion, and all these other wonderful missions that are still open and still functioning. Definitely check these missions out. It's one of my favorite things in San Antonio. Concepcion, San Juan, Espada, and of course San Jose, which is my favorite one. Then you also get to find out where some of the former mission sites were. Sometimes it's just a stone standing there. And there's structure all around San Antonio and historic places that were important to the Camino. And now we're going to talk about springs. Springs were incredibly important when you were on the road for Camino, such as San Pedro Springs and Comal Springs in New Braunfels. These places were a great spot along the Camino. You get some fresh water. You get to water your horses, your animals. You get to drink fresh, clear water. But then other parts were also a bit more dangerous because you'd have to cross the river. So water was very welcome, but at the same time, it was a deterrent. And that's more mission markers. San Marcos Springs, which is now full of glass bottom boats, was also an important stop. And these people, as they were traveling, searched for these springs not only as um, specific locations and guide markers, but also for nourishment. And this is Old San Marcos, where we have the McGahey crossing, which is where the river gets pretty low. And we have Barton Springs as well in Austin. People would stop here, relax. They wouldn't be swimming like we do nowadays, but it'd be a good place to stop and refresh yourselves as you're getting ready for the arduous journey that's about to happen, because there's more river crossings here on the Colorado. See how low the water is? It was perfect for wagon wheels and horses and oxen and all that kind of cool stuff. And we have Big Baldy, which was one of the guideposts. You would get there at McKinney Falls State Park, cross Onion Creek, and also there'd be houses where you could stay at and infrastructure for you to continue your journey knowing that you are on the way. Another place was in LaGrange at the Kreische Brewery. I hope I'm saying that right. And of course in Bastrop. And if you go to Bastrop, you can see the portrait of the person that saved the Camino. She was important in establishing all the historical markers and everything. So definitely check that out. Get to learn more about the history. And like I said, there were certain points where you would look for, such as the Lost Pines in Bastrop, knowing that you were on the right direction, you were making your way. This Apache Pass crossing shows you how people would cross, and then all these markers for former historic missions that I spent about 2 hours searching for and finally found all three of them, although I think I'm missing one. This was another point along the Camino. If you were passing Sugarloaf Mountain, you knew you were on the way. And then Mission Tejas State Park. We are now getting into the Piney Woods of Texas, where we also experience the Caddo Mound State Historic Site. Now, the mounds were another important point as you were making your way along the Camino. You would pass them knowing that you were close to Louisiana. And this area here is full of rivers that are important and historic markers. As you can see, I myself loved stopping and taking pictures and reading because I am incredibly interested in El Camino Real de los Tejas. But you would have to cross the Neches and the Angelina River, and you'd reach Nacogdoches, which has plenty of historic sites tied to El Camino Real. And then we have Mission Dolores State Historic Site. The mission is no longer there, but they are planning on building a replica of it. And one of the last places is the Lobanillo Swales. As you would walk, you would sort of imprint and make depressions on the land. And that's what swales are. And then we are finally in Louisiana at Fort Jessup and Las Adaes, which was the first state capital of Texas. Yes, Louisiana was once Texas. Awesome, isn't it? But come here because you are nearly finished with your journey, and then you would finally get to Fort Jean Baptiste in Natchitoches, Louisiana, or Natchitoches, as somebody told me to pronounce it. Anyways, that's a long journey. It would take you probably months to get there, but it was an awesome journey. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Go take the Camino Real yourself. And thanks for watching. Bye-bye.